What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back with another Destiny 2 Lightfall and Year 6 video. And in this one we're going to be taking a look at the roadmap for 2023 and the content that we can look forward to following the expansion in February. We should mention that this isn't an official Bungie roadmap since they don't tend to do this kind of thing these days. But we are able to map out the key content drops and game updates for the year, including some of the major quality of life improvements later on in the year, the rough season timeline for 2023, endgame content updates, and of course live events as a kind of overview of what we can expect to see based on previous years, and what Bungie have told us about this year. And so as always guys, I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and feel free to add to it down below in the comments, but otherwise, let's get into it. Initially, we should outline that release timelines are subject to change, and currently, many of them aren't confirmed by Bungie, but that doesn't stop us from mapping out the order and rough timeline for events and content drops in 2023, as the length of seasons and timelines over the past couple of years especially have been fairly rigid, and as far as we know are set to stay the same. And so, initially, the Destiny New Year will begin with Lightfall on February 28, 2023. And it's worth mentioning that when Lightfall drops, moments of triumph for Year 5 will come to an end. But before that happens, Bungie have just confirmed via the game that there will be a Season of the Seraph finale event. So they say there's an upcoming quest and activity, and during the final 2 weeks of the Season of the Seraph, a special finale quest and activity will be available for all players. Season Pass owners who have completed the More Than a Weapon quest will start the finale quest automatically upon login. And so just another interesting heads up before we get to Lightfall, the very final 2 weeks before that happens is going to see yet another finale event for season content in Year 5. We don't have any details about what that could be just yet, but give us your thoughts and speculation in the comment section. And on top of that, while Bungie have confirmed that expansion sunsetting will no longer take place, it will still apply to the vast majority of season content from this year, so if you want to collect any Year 5 titles, or reliably earn any of the weapons or gear, as well as experiencing any of the season content, you'll need to do so before February 28th. And then in February, with the release of the expansion, of course we'll be getting the biggest content drop of the year, visiting a new destination with a new normal and legendary campaign, and checking out the new strand subclasses and no doubt experiencing plenty of quest content, new rewards and more. But the other key features for the wider game which will launch at the same time as this includes the new mod management and loadout systems, and these are set to make it easier than ever to configure and save our favourite setups of gear, banking our weapons, armour, mods and subclass selections into a handful of slots for instant switching. And this is definitely going to be one of the bigger quality of life updates that Destiny 2 has had since launch. So there is a lot of anticipation and expectation for that system. But on top of that, Bungie will introduce Guardian Ranks and Commendations. And Guardian Ranks is a new ranking system that covers achievements ranging from very basic intro and discovery type content, all the way through to complex or top 1% triumphs for raiding, dungeons, soloing and more. And so obviously the more that we play, the more we'll achieve and the higher that Guardian rank will be. Then another one of these big systems that we know about is the introduction of Guardian Commendations. And this is a player rating system where we can score other players for their helpfulness, friendliness, or ability after playing activities together. And this system is landing ahead of the new in-game LFG later this year and will integrate with that. So when we're looking for players via LFG, we'll be able to get a sense of if they're a good fit to game with for a given activity. And launching commendations early on in the year obviously leaves some time for those ratings to build up, meaning that there'll be some data ready to go when the LFG services go live. And so all of that is worth bearing in mind. And on top of Lightfall, we'll see the release of the Season 20 content. That should be dropping on February 28th as well. And while in previous expansions, Bungie have staggered the season activity launches until a couple of weeks after the main expansion, of course, with Witch Queen, we saw the season launch alongside the main content drop, and this likely means that we'll see the Season 20 content's core drop at the same time as the expansion. And then we move into March of 2023, and we're going to see the new Lightfall raid release. The expansion itself drops on the last day of February, so whether Bungie drop the raid in the first week or the second, it will be a March release. And with the last major raid, Vow of the Disciple, launching on a Saturday, it seems fairly likely that we'll see a weekend release once again, and that's likely to be the week after the launch of Lightfall, around either the 10th or 11th of March based on what we've seen previously. And then as we head into April 2023, two things are likely to happen. Firstly, we'll probably see the launch of Grandmaster Nightfalls for the season, unless of course Bungie decide to make that earlier, given that they are adjusting the power requirements and things like that. And additionally, between April and May is the typical release time for the Guardian Games event, and it's highly likely that that event will return this year, and the 2023 rendition of the event will be the first Guardian Games featuring the event card system. As always, lots of cosmetics will drop. Hopefully, there'll be some cool weapons and other items to chase there as well. So be sure to look out for Guardian Games late in April and early May. Given that the first full season of 2023 is going to be one alongside an expansion, it's likely that it'll be a fairly fresh and content-packed season overall, which will lead us into May of 2023, and based on the 3-month cycle, Season 21 should be releasing towards the end of that month. Obviously, we have no info on the season itself, aside from possible speculation based on the annual pass image, which has key Lightfall characters, and possibly those that pertain to the rest of the seasons in the year. But one thing we can say with certainty about Season 21 is that we're going to see a new dungeon launching, which could be right at the end of May or possibly early June, depending on the season launch date itself. And otherwise, from what we normally see, the majority of June is likely to be normal season weekly rotations, and perhaps a slightly quieter month. And then moving into July, this is normally the release month for Solstice of Heroes, so for 2023, the event is essentially confirmed to be returning because Bungie told us that event titles will have annual gilding linked to them, and so Solstice should return as normal as the midsummer event. It'll be interesting to see if they do something different from the aerial zone this time, but otherwise, again, with it being a seasonal event, it'll certainly be heavily focused around cosmetics, but hopefully there'll be a couple of good rewards that affect gameplay as well. And then moving ahead to August, again based on the 3-month season cycle, Season 22 is likely to release around that time. And there's 2 interesting things that will likely happen in this season. Initially, a raid reprise. Bungie haven't said much about a secondary raid for 2023, but they did say last year that they're moving to 2 pieces of raid and dungeon content per year, so based on that, it seems fairly likely that we'll see a second raid of the year with Season 22, although we should take that with a pinch of salt until Bungie give more info. But it does raise another possible system introduction for the season with in-game LFG, and Bungie have outlined that their planned in-game LFG tool will be launching in Year 6 after the main expansion. And of course, this could come at any point in time, but it seems very possible that they'll introduce this tool alongside the launch of the secondary raid for the year. And so if we don't get LFG in Season 21, I'd say based on the likelihood of that release, Season 22 looks to be the most likely time that the in-game LFG will become available. Obviously, there's a small amount of speculation there, but I would say that around the middle of the year is probably the most likely time to see something like that implemented. Bungie have also said that for seasons later in 2023, they're trying to incorporate more feedback about the seasonal structure, the repetitiveness of certain pieces of content, including loot systems, vendor upgrades, and stuff like that. So in terms of there being a little more innovation in the kind of gameplay format, we are again more likely to start seeing that in the seasons after Season 22. And September this year is likely to be filled with typical season rollout for Season 22. But that takes us into October, where Festival of the Lost should return for Halloween. Typically, this is around mid-October, and again, we've got that soft confirmation of its return due to annual event gilding. And at the very least, hopefully, it will kind of plug the gap a little bit as we head into November, which based on the 3-month season rotation again, is a possible time for the release of Season 23. Last year, of course, the final season started in December. That has the possibility to happen again. But in terms of what we know about content, the second dungeon of the year will drop in this kind of time frame as well. By then, it's very likely that in-game LFG will be active, so it'll be interesting to see how that affects a new dungeon launch. Of course, there could be certain rules around LFG. It seems pretty unlikely that they would launch a piece of endgame content into the LFG experience during that kind of initial contest period at the very least. But then also in December, of course, we get the Dawning, and additionally in the beginning of this final season for the year, we should see the Moments of Triumph kick off once again, recognizing player achievements throughout Year 6. As I mentioned at the start of this video, again, timeframes aren't absolutely concrete right now, and we will get a better idea when Lightfall itself launches because we'll be able to see the exact length of the first season in the year. But since Bungie haven't moved this expansion back like we've seen in the past couple of years, at least for the moment, it's very, very likely to be following nearly the same schedule as what we saw for Year 5. And so I figured it would be interesting to plot out some of the bits of content we're going to see, those major updates to the game, and the timings for the seasons in the annual pass coming up. Let us know down below what you're most looking forward to in Year 6, but also if you've enjoyed the conversation today, a rating below really does help us out. And I will be sure to keep you posted with more information about Year 6, Lightfall, and Bungie's plans in the coming months, so definitely get subscribed and turn on notifications by hitting the bell icon down below, so that you don't miss out on any content. Otherwise though, for now guys, thank you as always for tuning in, and I hope you all have an awesome day.